Barney, what's going on, buddy? How are you?
I'm good, guys. How are you?
Fantastic. Just talking some Leafs here as we do on a normal basis. What's your read on this team been thus far this season?
I really don't judge them that much right now because they're going to be a top three in their conference, and it's once we get to the playoffs. But I think the resurgence and just the domination that William Nylander has had, I think that just furthers expectations even more. Now the cloud hangs over. Can they get this done and have him sign long term? But he's been unreal. But this team doesn't get judged really fully till April, and that's just the reality of being a good regular season team and a team that hasn't had success in the playoffs. But certainly a team that could do some damage if they get some goaltending. Is that D good enough still? I don't think so, but a lot of time.
What was your team growing up, Barnes? Did you follow anyone? Do you have like a hometown team or someone that you kind of have your allegiance to?
No, not anymore. I played on 7 teams and played 15 years, so I don't have it anymore. I cheer for Ottawa, because I'm here and, the bars are more fun. Everyone's in a better mood. It's not to the same level that I cheer for the New York Jets, which I was in Buffalo this last weekend. There wasn't a lot of cheering going on, but as a kid, I was a massive Montreal Canadiens fan. Mats Naslund was by far my favorite player. Didn't really model my game after him. But certainly the team I cheered for the most until I turned pro. And then one of my first games was against Montreal. I was in 93 in that series where we lost to them 4 straight games, and they went on to win the Stanley Cup the last time anyone's ever won a Stanley Cup in Canada.
It all makes sense now, Barney, because I think the first time I met you or the first time I worked with you, I said, dude, I fucking hated you as a kid. And I was a Leafs fan, as you recall there. And it just seemed like every time you played the Leafs, you brought your best. Is that because you were a Habs fan growing up and you hated them just as much?
No, I just think the rivalry between Toronto and Buffalo over those years, we had a tough team and with Rob Ray and Brad May, Bob Bugner. And, when I started, they had Baumgartner and Kip Rios and Domi. There was some great nights. It was a 2-hour bus drive. We'd drive down or they'd drive down. They'd come into our building and half the fans would be Toronto Maple Leafs fans. So I think it created that instant rivalry, which is awesome. We don't have those kind of rivalries anymore. Hopefully it's budding to the point where Ottawa, Toronto, and that Battle of Ontario is back, because I think it's great for sports. And, I don't miss the fighting out of the game, but it certainly created those rivalries because of the toughness. So organically, we have to have 2 good teams that are close to each other, whether it's Buffalo, Toronto. Buffalo hasn't held up their end of the bargain in the last 12 years. Ottawa in the last 6-7 years hasn't held up their end of the bargain. So the only way organically to generate those rivalries is through being 2 good teams. And hopefully we can have that with Ottawa and Toronto and Buffalo in Toronto in the near future.
Barnes, with you played as long as you did. You've been in the media long enough now. I think a big problem at the beginning of the season with the Maple Leafs was just playing with that jam, and you're no stranger to it. They feel like they might have addressed it a little bit more, but throughout league wide, what do you see as far as who's playing with that jam, and is there a lack of it in the league? I talk to guys running teams and scouts, and they say we can't find a guy this day and age that has that factor, and it's like, it blows my mind because it's free to play that way, as you know, and it's so effective. What's going on with this generation? They don't want to step up and play that hard-nosed hockey.
And listen, it's a lot easier to make the NHL being a 3rd or 4th line penalty kill guy and a jam guy, a glue guy,
totally,
than it is to be a top 6 guy and a power play guy. Those guys don't leave. The Connor McDavids, the Dreisaitl's, the Matthews, the Marners, we can name so many on every team. It's a lot easier. The fact is, for the most part, this generation doesn't want to do it. And I'm not going to name a name because he's a family friend, but he's played a little bit in the National Hockey League. He's in the American League right now on a big deal. And I've told him, if you just finished all your checks, you're a really fast skater, you're 6'3". If you fought 5 or 6 times a year, you'd make $2 million. But the fact is, he doesn't want to do it. He doesn't want to change his game. And it's funny when I think Billy Guerin is the one that came up with the line, and I kind of stole it from him and kind of used it from, writing my book and then going back to junior. Everyone's saying they're willing to do anything to make the NHL. Everyone says that they're willing to do anything to make it in the media. Everyone's saying they want that promotion or be the highest in the level. But are you really willing to do anything. And the fact is, probably 95% aren't. They say it. It's easy to say it. Are you willing to do a podcast for free for 2 years to get to that next level? Are you willing to scout for free to get to that next level? Are you willing to fight or do a little extra, finish every check, block shots to get to that next level? Everyone says they are. I just don't think this generation as a whole is really willing to do it.
You got me fired up just saying that speech right there. But naturally, I think that fits in perfectly to this Maple Leafs conversation, because I think it's fair to ask that question every springtime. The players say the right things in the exit interviews every year, but I still have my wonders if this team can finally pull through. How do you feel about them?
Well, listen, they're going to have to outscore their opponents. And when we get into April and May, outscoring your opponents is great once in a series. You have to be disciplined defensively. That's what wins. I mean, it's great to be able to be down 2-0 start of the third period and be able to find a way to score 3 goals, and they have that ability. Can they play well enough defensively? Right now, the answer is no. Right now, they can outscore their mistakes on some nights, but that catches up to you. Look at the Edmonton Oilers. Look at the Edmonton Oilers in the Western Conference. Yeah. You know, I think if you're looking at a direct comparable, that would be a direct comparable. Now, they haven't got off to the start. They've been absolutely putrid and haven't been able to outscore their mistakes on most nights. But that's why we're going to have to wait and see. Once Tree Living does hopefully his magic for Toronto Maple Leafs fans, can he find a big defense? Patrick Kane is not the answer to come into the Toronto Maple Leafs.
It's weird,
like,
right?
Can we stop that fucking narrative that he's going to come in? Like, they got enough of those guys. And yes. He's older with a new hip. Like, they don't need him. He can go to Florida. He can go to Dallas and help them offensively on a second power play unit, whatever it may be. They don't need Patrick Kane. They need to find a Jake Muzzin. That's what they need to find. They need a big defenseman, not that's going to fight all the time, but can be there to help out teammates, to make it tough to get to those scoring areas. It's a lot easier to get there now, but still, we talked about this generation not wanting to do all the little things. When a guy like Jake Muzzin is front of the net, it's harder. And you might leave with a couple bruises with whatever they can do in this day and age. So right now, do I believe that they're a Stanley Cup contender? No. They're an exciting team to watch and make it fun, whether they have the puck or they don't have the puck.
So let me ask it this way then. Do you believe that if they add a Zadorov or a Tanev or even both, like they're a legitimate contender? Because Rosie and I have been on that train for a while, man. Those guys would both bring a sort of a different look to the back end, no?
Absolutely. And we can go to Ryan Reaves, and I like Ryan Reaves. I'm not going to jump on a train for clicks like someone else did. Listen, he adds a valuable piece to the team in the regular season. And I think he gives everyone a little their little Charlie Brown blanket that they can carry around and know if things do go awry, that he's going to be there to protect them. Is he going to play valuable minutes? No. Is he going to be in the lineup probably in playoff games? No. So that's not going to affect the bottom line of the team and push them over the top. That's just going to give them some security blankets at times during the regular season where you know a guy's going to have your back. Adding guys that play 20, 25 minutes that make the game harder to play and can actually keep up with the speed of the game, that's value. That's value.
And it all comes down to the playoffs. I mean, it's like when you step from the regular season to the playoffs, the jump in intensity is so high. You need guys that are going to be the ones that provide that extra intensity rather than the guys who are going to take a step back and say, oh my, I thought this was a track meet. I'll just stay on the outside and hopefully get my cookies. Like, good luck, man. You need guys that are the ones that step up in the playoffs and make that intensity jump.
And I would say they're at the point now where they realize how important that is, and they've had those failures. A little bit of success last year, finally getting over that hump of a first round exit. But I feel bad for them in a way, not because of the money they make or whatever. Because that is what it is. It's going into the regular season knowing that the 82 games that you're going to play and the 6 months, 7 months that you're playing don't matter. You still have to get there, but it doesn't matter what they do. The same narrative is going to come back. And that's just the reality of the business that we're in. They just need to make the playoffs, whether they're first seed or an 8th seed, it doesn't matter. because all we're waiting for is the first game, the first round, and the second round. Prove to us you can do it when it really counts. And that's a hard way to go about 82 games. Because if they win 5 in a row, everyone's like, oh, this is what we expected. They lose 2 in a row, again, same old Maple Leafs.
82 game tune-up, we like to look at it. You referenced Willie Nylander earlier on. You definitely have a hand in the betting world. MVP, would you sniff around on the futures look at an MVP for Willie Nylander and just your general assessment of his play so far this season?
Yeah, I definitely would be. I haven't looked it up yet. I'm big into the football aspect right now. But listen, he's on a different level right now. He is his compete. Nothing more dangerous than a guy that loves that is very skilled and is looking to get paid. And he's not taking a penny less what he can get elsewhere in other markets than what Toronto. Let's just say the number was 10.5 or $11 million, whatever the number is. And this is where there's such an unfair advantage for teams in no state taxes, where they can come in and swoop in and get him for 9.5, and he's going to make more, and he's going to be living in a warmer place. That's just the reality of the NHL, which I think should be changed. But yeah, I'd definitely be sniffing around. He's been electric, man. He's been electric. That compete level is on a different level than I've ever seen William Nylander, and it's money motivated.
Well, it's like star to superstar right now, but I think the guy deserves credit for his evolution as a player. Like even last year, he had a 40-goal campaign, first time in his career. But I wanted to ask you too, like, so you play the role of Brad Treliving, and I put out an article today at the LeafsNation.com where it's like they have to learn from some of the mistakes from the previous administration in terms of setting a pecking order. What would be your walk number right now on Willie Nylander? Because obviously he's made a couple bucks here with this start to the season.
Yeah, I think anything over 11. I just couldn't do it. The conundrum for the Toronto Maple Leafs, he's going to take his money, and we've seen what happened in the last negotiations. We've seen what happens with his dad when he was negotiating. There's not going to be $1 left on the table, and the level he's playing at, you also can't let this guy walk for free. Like, you have such a valuable asset. I've said this. I mean, we're going back probably 15 years when Jay Bouwmeester hit the open market. I'm like, never let a star player walk for free. And that's the conundrum that they're in, because you can't win without William Nylander in the playoffs. But how do you let a guy walk for free? It's just not something that I can do. And maybe I'm always looking long term. And if you're not the clear favorite, like a Las Vegas or Colorado, you're not a top 4 team and don't mind losing them for free and taking a run, then you got to do it. But then you got the fans that are going to go, like, they're in an impossible situation. But having said that, 11 million is my number. I just don't think they can afford any more than that.
Yeah, and I mean, it just keeps coming down to the core 4, how much money they make. I mean, you got John Tavares making $11 million. It handcuffs you. So I've always been of the school of you gotta make a big move. Your back end's not good enough. You can't bolster it without moving something in the front. You got 4 guys of the same, cloth making that big money. You're gonna have to break something up, and I just can't seem to wrap my mind around letting William Nylander walk and watching him flourish elsewhere and having that pain again that Leafs fans are all too familiar with.
It's a hard one. How they maneuver, that's in the cap world when you got great players up front, and they have.
I'm glad I'm not Treliving.
Well, you're not trading Matthews. You just signed him to a long-term extension. No one's taking Tavares at that number, and Marner's a hell of a player. So all of these things add up to same old Toronto Maple Leafs and being heavy up front and having to win 5-4, 6-5.
You're right. But the crazy thing is, it doesn't seem like they want to change their ideology, right? If they did when they brought in their new GM, they would have. Like, to me, this all stems back to A, Kyle Dubas gave these guys whatever they wanted. So it starts the system right away. And B, it goes back to Brendan Shanahan. This is what he wants. If this is what he wants, it's not going to change. But I couldn't agree more. Like, how many times can you go back to that well with this nucleus in place and it doesn't work in the playoffs and you continue to pay them and pay them and pay them? Because my question is, if you're the Nylander camp, why are you asking for anything less than what Marner's getting right now? And then Marner's going to want to raise, right?
Don't even negotiate. If I'm William Nylander, I'm not talking about, if I'm William Nylander, I cut off all conversations right now. Talk to me at the end of the year. It's not going to go down. Not going to go down.
Yeah.
Might go down in Toronto, but it's not going to go in other markets. So someone's going to come looking for goals. And he's every game he steps on the ice right now, he's just putting more money in his pocket. If I'm that camp, I don't negotiate at all with the Toronto Maple Leafs right now. If I want to maximize my money.
Yeah, let's hope he doesn't think that way. Barney, thank you so much for doing this. Let's promote your book. Let's do that.
All right, Matthew Barnaby Unfiltered, Amazon. Jeffrey Bezos has absolutely everything. My wife is there every day.
Christmas is coming up as well. Thanks for this, buddy.
Hey, thanks, guys. Keep up the awesome work.
Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long-form interviews. We got clips. We got epic rants by Jay Rosehill. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.